I wasn't expecting my ego to get wrecked by a girl holding a basket of pumpkins, not in downtown Portland anyway. I was late for a tasting event at my flagship restaurant, the Ember Room, where every local influencer within a 100-mile radius would be waiting to drool over my signature autumn brulee. I'd perfected that recipe to near religious precision. The world knew me as Luca Hale, the Playboy chef, the man who made passion look easy and soufflés rise on command, and then she stepped in front of my car. Literally. A small delivery van cut me off on the narrow street. I hit the brakes hard, the tires squealing, espresso splashing from the cup holder. The back doors of that van swung open, and out tumbled a girl. Well, more like a human avalanche of orange pumpkins and caramel-colored hair. "Watch it," she yelled, her voice fierce enough to cut through the chaos of horns and fall air. I got out of the car, shaking my head. "You planning to take out Portland's entire pumpkin supply by hand?" She straightened up, brushing dirt off her apron. "You planning to hit every delivery girl who's trying to do her job?" Her eyes, hazel defiant, met mine like she was already unimpressed. Not a good start. The apron read, "Sweet Hollow Farms." I glanced at the mess on the road, bright pumpkins rolling under parked cars, one cracked open like a crime scene. "That's unfortunate," I said, crouching to pick one up. "This one died a hero." "Funny." She snatched it from me. "Some of us actually work for a living," I grinned. "Oh, trust me, sweetheart, I work. My hands just happen to use knives and fire instead of dirt and fertilizer." Her brow arched. "You're Luca Hale, right? The guy who yelled at a food critic on live TV?" "Allegedly," I said, straightening my jacket. "Context matters. He called my soufflé fluffy mediocrity. I had to defend the honor of eggs everywhere." She rolled her eyes and started collecting the rest of her pumpkins. "Congratulations. You sound exhausting." "I get that a lot," I said lightly, but something about her tone stuck under my skin. She wasn't flirting. She wasn't even curious. She just wanted to leave. "Look, why don't I help?" "No thanks. I don't need charity from a guy whose dessert probably costs more than my rent." That one stung. I didn't let it show. Instead, I watched her wrestle another pumpkin into the van, her hair falling into her face, sunlight hitting her skin in that unintentional, cinematic way. I cleared my throat. "You delivering those to the Ember Room?" "Yeah," she said reluctantly. "Seasonal supply contract. My boss says you like locally sourced authenticity, whatever that means." "It means I overpay for organic guilt," I said. Her lips twitched. For half a second, she looked like she might laugh. Then she didn't. I wanted to know her name, though I'd never admit that. "You got a label, Miss Pumpkin Distributor?" She climbed into the van. "Maya? Maya what?" "Just Maya." She slammed the door shut, started the engine, and drove off without another word. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen to find Maya unloading crates in my prep area. Her hair was tied up now, a stubborn strand escaping near her temple. I should have been irritated. No one entered my kitchen without permission. But instead, something about her being there made the space feel less sterile. "What part of deliver at the back entrance did you not understand?" I asked. "What part of your staff is ignoring me did you not understand?" She shot back. The line cooks froze, watching like kids at a tennis match. "You can leave them there," I said. "I'll sign off." "Can't," she said. "Need a full check-in. New supplier policy." Of course she did. As she bent down to lift another crate, I saw the muscles in her arms tense. She wasn't fragile. She was capable, grounded, annoyingly so. I found myself saying, "You sure you can handle that weight?" "Why? You afraid I'll drop your precious produce?" "Just thinking about workplace safety," I teased. "Wouldn't want to be responsible for pumpkin-related injuries." "Then move," she said. "You're in my way." She brushed past me, and I caught the faint scent of cinnamon and earth. Real, unprocessed, the kind of smell you can't fake with a diffuser. I should have stepped back. Instead, I froze like a rookie. When she turned, our shoulders brushed. It shouldn't have meant anything. It did. At lunch service, I was supposed to be reviewing new menu items, but my head was still replaying her voice. By 3 o'clock, I gave up and headed out back, where I found her again, this time standing by the dumpster, arguing on the phone. "No, Mr. Sutton. I can't deliver the rest until you pay the driver for last week," she said. "I can't run on IOUs." Her tone was sharp, but her eyes were wet. That didn't sit right with me. She noticed me watching and quickly wiped her face. You got a staring problem, chef? I crossed my arms. You always argue with your boss by the trash cans, or is that your signature move? Why do you care? I don't, I said too fast. But my souffle doesn't rise well when the air's full of stress. That got a small laugh out of her, which felt like winning a Michelin star. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. Sorry, didn't mean to bring drama to your kingdom. You okay? I'm fine, she said automatically. Just trying to keep the farm running. My uncle owns it, but he's sick. I'm covering deliveries until he's back. Something tightened in my chest. I didn't like that feeling. It was too close to empathy. Does he know his employee nearly died playing pumpkin dodgeball yesterday? That earned me a smirk. You have a weird sense of humor. I'm a chef, I said. Sarcasm's how we season the pain, she tilted her head. Then you must be a 5-star sadist. That hit harder than I expected. By the end of the week, she'd become an unplanned fixture in my kitchen. Every morning, new deliveries, short arguments, unspoken tension. My sous chef started placing bets on when we'd either kiss or kill each other. One afternoon, she stood by the counter, sorting tiny decorative gourds. You ever get tired of everyone thinking they know who you are? She asked suddenly. I looked up. You been reading my fan mail? No, just watching you act like you don't care about anything. That startled me more than it should have. Maybe I don't. Liar. The word landed like a thrown knife. Clean, direct, impossible to dodge. I leaned closer. Careful, Maya. Accusing the boss of emotional depth could get you fired. Good. I'm terrible at pretending. She left before I could think of a comeback. Saturday hit like a hurricane. The Ember Room hosted its autumn showcase. TV cameras, critics, champagne, and a dozen staff losing their minds. The star dessert, pumpkin brulee. But as I lifted the first spoonful for the demo, something was wrong. The texture was off, too watery like the pumpkins had been stored wrong. My reputation could crumble in front of everyone. I shot a glance toward the back, where Maya stood near the storage racks, eyes wide. What happened? I whispered. She blushed. I think one crate was left out in the sun. I didn't realize. I cursed under my breath. Cameras were rolling. I forced a smile for the audience. You know what they say? Sometimes dessert burns. I torched the top layer deliberately until it smoked, earning nervous laughter from the crowd. Perfect, I said, tasting it. A little bitterness gives it character. The segment ended fine. Barely. But the damage to my ego was irreversible. Afterward, I found her by the pantry, clearly expecting the worst. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I ruined your moment. You didn't ruin anything, I said, though my voice cracked on the last word. I burned the dessert. That's on me. Because I messed up, she whispered. Because you distracted me, I corrected. Her breath caught. Don't do that. What? Turn everything into a joke. I stared at her. Then stop being so easy to look at. Her eyes flashed. You're impossible. Yeah, I said softly. That's what everyone says before they fall for me. She shook her head, grabbed her bag, and marched out the back door. Minutes later, my restaurant manager rushed in. Luca, we've got a situation. The supplier's delivery contract, Sweet Hollow Farms, they're going bankrupt. You're their only major client. They need a temporary financial backer to stay afloat. I froze. Guess who's coming back here tomorrow? He added. To negotiate. I didn't need to guess. Maya. The girl who'd just stormed out of my life was about to be trapped in it. The next morning, my kitchen felt different. Too quiet, too expectant. Even the air smelled strange, like cinnamon laced with anticipation. I told myself it was ridiculous. I wasn't waiting for her. I was waiting for a business meeting. That's all. Then she walked in wearing a pale green shirt and jeans, hair tied up again, eyes determined like she'd come to war instead of work. Morning, chef, she said flatly. Here for the contract meeting. I leaned against the counter, arms folded. Didn't think you'd show. Thought maybe you'd take your pumpkins and run. Her gaze didn't flinch. I'm not a quitter. My uncle's farm needs this deal. Behind her, my manager cleared his throat awkwardly. We'll, give you 2 a minute. He vanished faster than steam off a sauté pan. So, I said, picking up the contract folder. Sweet Hollow Farms wants a 6-month renewal. I buy your produce, you don't go bankrupt. In return, you deliver fresh, on time, and without your attitude, she interrupted. I smirked. You really should learn how to negotiate with a man who signs checks. I negotiate fine, she said. I just don't sell my dignity for a signature. Something sharp flickered in her tone, a quiet defiance that hit harder than any insult. I should have shut it down, but I didn't. Instead, I found myself leaning closer across the counter. Tell me something, Maya. Do you actually hate me, or are you just afraid to admit you don't? She blinked, taken off guard. You think everything is about attraction, don't you? Most things are, I said lightly. Especially when the air gets this thick. She snapped the contract shut. Sign it or don't. I don't have time for your games. I grabbed her wrist before she could walk off. Not hard, just enough to stop her. I'll sign, I said quietly. But you're staying on site for the next month. Quality checks. You'll work with my team directly. Her eyes widened. That's not in the deal. It is now, I said, signing my name in a single stroke. Consider it professional proximity. She stared at the paper, then at me. You're unbelievable. I try. She pulled her wrist free. Fine, I'll stay. But I'm not falling for your charm, Hale. I grinned. You already fell. I'm just making sure you land safely. By day 2, she'd taken over the prep station near the window, sorting vegetables with maddening precision. The staff adored her. They called her Pumpkin Girl. I pretended to be annoyed, but secretly, I liked the way she lit up the kitchen. She worked with quiet focus, her laughter rare but real when it came. I found myself inventing excuses to stand near her. Quality control, I said. Total lie. One afternoon, I caught her humming while weighing produce. You sing now? She jumped. You sneak now? Always, I said. Comes with the job. Gotta catch chefs slacking. I'm not your chef, she said. Not yet. She gave me a look that could have sliced through marble. You're exhausting. Then stop letting me get to you. I'm not letting anything. She stopped mid-sentence because our hands brushed while reaching for the same crate. Her skin was warm, pulse quick. For a second, the world went silent except for the faint hiss of the stoves. I didn't move. Neither did she. Then she stepped back, eyes darting away. Don't, she whispered. Don't what? Turn this into one of your flings. I wanted to joke, to tease, to say something cocky and safe. But my throat tightened instead. Maybe I don't want a fling, I said quietly. Her expression softened just a little, then shuddered again. Then you're lying to both of us. A week later, she was still there, every morning, every hour in my kitchen and in my head. She'd started tweaking recipes without permission, adjusting sugar levels, adding hints of spice. Normally, I'd fire anyone who dared touch my creations. With her, I just watched. The first time I tasted her version of my brulee, I nearly swore. It was better, simpler, human. I found her loading trays in the walk-in cooler. You changed my recipe, she didn't look up. It needed warmth. Yours tasted like perfection with no heartbeat. I leaned against the doorframe, studying her. You really don't pull punches, do you? I don't have the luxury, she said. People like you can afford to fake confidence. I can't. Something about that sentence landed deep. You think this is fake? She turned, facing me fully now. You wear charm like armor. But every time someone gets close, you joke or flirt or change the subject. You can't cook your way out of loneliness, Luca. Her words hit like a knife straight through ego. I couldn't decide if I wanted to kiss her or walk out. Instead, I said, You talk too much. You listen too little. We stood there in silence, breathing the same cold air, the tension thick enough to taste. Then my sous chef opened the cooler door and nearly dropped a tray when he saw us. Sorry, chef. Didn't mean to interrupt the refrigeration session. Maya flushed scarlet and brushed past me. I'm going on break. I stayed there, staring at the door long after she was gone. 2 days later, we hosted a private tasting for investors. Maya helped prep behind the scenes. Everything was running smooth until one of the waiters spilled sauce on a guest's designer suit. Chaos. The kind that draws cameras and lawsuits. The investor shouted, This place is a disaster! Maya jumped in before I could react. Sir, that was my fault. I set the tray too close to the edge. It wasn't true. I saw it happen, but she took the blame without blinking. After the crowd calmed, I pulled her aside. Why would you do that? Because your restaurant doesn't need bad press. You already have enough of that. Don't save me, I said. I'm not worth the trouble. She looked up at me with quiet conviction. That's for me to decide, the words lodged in my chest. When she tried to leave, I grabbed her arm. You don't get to protect me, Maya. You don't even like me. Maybe that's the problem, she said softly. I should hate you, but you make it impossible. That was the moment the room stopped existing. I didn't kiss her. I wanted to, more than I'd wanted anything in years, but she pulled away before I could move. Don't make this harder, she whispered. You're my boss, and I'm just the girl who delivers pumpkins. She walked out, leaving me standing there with my heart doing things it had no business doing. The next morning, she didn't show up. No call, no text. The kitchen felt hollow without her laughter bouncing off the walls. I told myself I didn't care. I even said it out loud. The staff didn't believe me. By noon, I drove to Sweet Hollow Farms. The air smelled of soil and apple cider. Chickens clucked somewhere behind the barn. She was there, crouched beside a broken tractor, hands stained with grease. You stalking your supplier now? She asked without looking up. I came for the pumpkins, I said. And maybe the truth, she sighed. My uncle collapsed this morning. I'm trying to fix things here before the next delivery. I stepped closer. Why didn't you call? Because you're not my responsibility, Luca. Funny, I said. You feel like it. She looked up then, eyes tired, jaw set. You don't get to say things like that when you don't mean them. I do mean them, I said quietly. For once, I actually do. She stood, brushing dirt off her jeans. You say that now. But what happens when someone better walks in? You'll burn the next dessert and call it passion. That line cut deep. I reached for her hand and she didn't pull away this time. You really think I'm that shallow? I think you're scared, she said. Of caring. Of being ordinary. Ordinary? I laughed softly. You think what's happening right now feels ordinary? Her eyes flicked down to our hands, fingers barely touching. It can't happen, Luca. I was about to argue when her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it and went pale. The farm's accounts? The bank froze them. We're done. Without thinking, I said, Then I'll help you. She looked up, shocked. You? The man who thinks feelings are optional? I've got enough money to keep this place running. Let me invest. I don't want your pity. It's not pity, I said, heart pounding. It's me trying not to lose something I care about. She stepped back. You don't even know what caring is. Her words hit like a slap, but before I could reply, a truck pulled up. Bank representative. He walked over, papers in hand. Miss Harper? We're here to seize assets. Effective immediately, Maya's face crumbled. I looked at her, then at the man, and without hesitation said, No, you're not. The Ember Group just bought Sweet Hollow Farms. Everyone froze. Even I couldn't believe I'd said it. She stared at me, voice shaking. You can't do that. I just did. You had no right. Maybe not, I said. But I wasn't about to watch you lose everything. Her voice broke. You think this makes me grateful? You just made me your employee for real. Then she turned and walked away, tears bright in the sunlight. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the one in control because the girl who delivered pumpkins had just stolen everything that mattered, and she didn't even know it. 2 days. That's how long she refused to see me. 2 days since I bought her farm like some kind of arrogant savior, thinking love could be signed in ink. I hadn't heard a word from her, not a text, not a call, not even a pumpkin delivery. My staff avoided eye contact like I was radioactive. They knew I'd screwed up. By day 3, I drove back to Sweet Hollow Farms. The October sun burned bright over the fields, but the place felt ghosted. No laughter, no music, no Maya. I spotted her by the barn, hauling a crate into the truck bed, her movements sharp, angry. You're trespassing, she said without looking at me. I own the land now, I said quietly. That earned me a glare so cold I almost melted in self-defense. Then you can fire yourself for being unbearable. I walked closer. You're really mad at me for saving your business? You didn't save it, she snapped. You took it. You took the only thing I built without anyone's help. Her voice cracked and the sound gutted me. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that I'd only done it because losing her felt unbearable, but words failed. She turned away. Go home, Luca. I am home, I said. And apparently it's full of pumpkins and women who hate me. She froze for half a second, then kept walking. The next morning she came to the Ember Room, but not to talk to me. She marched past the front counter straight into the kitchen, carrying her clipboard like a shield. "I'm here for the supply inventory. Your assistant said you're too busy to handle your own paperwork." The staff scattered. Everyone sensed the emotional weather report, 100% chance of storm. I leaned on the counter, arms crossed. "Busy saving farms, mostly." Her eyes flashed. "You're proud of what you did?" "Proud?" "No. Regretting the delivery method." "Absolutely." She slammed her clipboard down. "You humiliated me, Luca. You made me look like a charity case. I made sure you could keep your uncle's house, the jobs, the business, by taking away my choice," she said, voice shaking. "You think throwing money at people is love? It's control." The silence that followed was razor-edged. My throat felt dry, but I forced myself to say it. "Maybe I don't know what love looks like, but I know what losing feels like. And I wasn't about to lose you too." Her expression softened for half a heartbeat, then hardened again. "You can't own someone's heart the way you own restaurants, Luca." She turned and left, the door slamming behind her. The sound echoed longer than it should have. That night, I couldn't focus on anything. Not the dinner rush, not the critics' emails, not even the sight of my perfect pumpkin brulee lining the counter like obedient soldiers. Everything I touched felt off. Too sweet, too polished. Like me before she cracked something open. By morning, I'd made a decision I wasn't sure I could live with. I drove back to the farm, parked by the fence, and waited until she came out carrying a box of receipts. "What now?" she asked, exasperated. "I'm giving it back," I said, her brows furrowed. "What? The farm? The contract, everything. It's yours again. No strings. You can't just—" "I can," I interrupted. "I already called the lawyers. You'll get the paperwork by noon." She stared at me like she was waiting for the punchline. "Why?" "Because I finally realized what I was doing," I said quietly. "I wasn't saving your farm. I was trying to buy forgiveness. You were right. It's what I do, fix things with money, not words. I thought if I could just fix you, I wouldn't have to fix me." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I kept going because stopping would have meant breaking. I used to think control was the only way to keep people from leaving. My father walked out when I was 16. My mother buried herself in charities and headlines. I learned early that people stay only when they benefit from you. So I built an empire, kept everyone happy, and never let anyone see the cracks. The wind rustled through the cornfield behind us. The smell of soil and sunlight filled the air. "I'm tired of performing," I said. "You were the first person who didn't buy the act. You called me a liar. You made me burn dessert on live TV. You made me feel like I wasn't faking something for once." Her eyes shimmered, but she crossed her arms. "So what now? You tell me all that and I'm supposed to forgive you?" "No," I said. "You're supposed to tell me to leave. But I'm staying until you believe that I care. Not about fixing you or saving you, but about knowing you." Her voice trembled. "You don't give up easily, do you?" "Only when the recipe's perfect," I said softly. "And you? You're the first thing I don't want to change." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she looked at the farmhouse window. "Uncle Ben's awake. He'll want to see the paperwork himself." I nodded. "I'll have it ready." She turned to go, but paused. "You really meant it? No conditions?" "None, except maybe one." She raised an eyebrow. "Which is?" "That you stop calling me Chef Hale. Makes me feel like an old man." Her lips curved into the faintest smile before she disappeared inside. A week passed. I didn't see her. Didn't text. Didn't chase. I figured if she wanted to talk, she would, but every night I found myself burning one dessert intentionally. Just a small one, on the back counter, like muscle memory. I'd torch the sugar too long, watch it blacken, and whisper, because she was the only sweet thing I couldn't resist. Then one morning, she showed up at the Ember Room again. No clipboard this time, no apron. Just Maya. Jeans, white shirt, sunlight in her hair. "You still torching desserts out of guilt?" she asked. I looked up from the counter. "Maybe therapy's overrated." She walked closer. "You know, my uncle said something after you left. He said that chef's got too much pride and not enough patience." "Smart man." Then he smiled, she continued. "Said, but maybe he's learning?" I tilted my head. Was that his way of forgiving me or trying to recruit me into farm life? She laughed, a real one this time. Both, maybe. I exhaled, feeling something loosen in my chest. You came all this way to quote your uncle? She stepped closer, eyes warm now. No, I came because I think I owe you a taste test. Of what? She reached into her bag and pulled out a small jar. Pumpkin jam. My first batch since the farm's back under my name. I unscrewed the lid, tasted a spoonful, and nearly cursed. That's criminally good. Better than your brulee? She teased. Don't push it. She smiled, then hesitated. I was angry, Luca, not because you bought the farm, because I didn't know how to handle someone who actually showed up. You think I showed up? You're here, aren't you? Not hiding behind a kitchen, not performing, just here. I met her eyes, and for once I didn't need a punchline. Then maybe it's my turn to deliver something. She raised an eyebrow. What, a speech? A confession, I said. I burned that dessert because I couldn't stop looking at you. You ruined my concentration, my focus, my rules. Her laugh caught in her throat, turning into something softer. You're ridiculous. Completely, I said. But I'm also in love with you. The words hung in the air like steam, fragile but real. She blinked, eyes wide. You really don't do things halfway, do you? Never learned how. She set the jar down and stepped closer until our hands brushed. Then maybe we try something different this time. No contracts. No control. Just whatever this is, pumpkin chaos? I asked, maybe, she said, smiling. But it's ours, I grinned. Then we'll make it work, even if I burn a few more desserts along the way. She shook her head, laughing, and rested her forehead against mine. You probably will. I probably will, I echoed. Outside, the autumn light spilled across the windows, golden and forgiving. The kitchen smelled like sugar and smoke, the scent of things imperfectly made but worth keeping. I picked up the spoon again and handed it to her. Taste it, she did, smiling as she swallowed. Still too bitter. Good, I said softly. Bitterness gives it character. She laughed through a tear. You and your metaphors. Not a metaphor, I said. Just honesty. For a long moment we stood there in the warmth of the kitchen. Me, the man who thought control was safety. Her, the girl who delivered pumpkins and ended up delivering grace. I brushed a thumb along her jaw, the same hand that once torched sugar to glass.
You know, I said quietly, I wasn't expecting my ego to get wrecked by a girl holding a basket of pumpkins. She smiled through the sunlight.
Guess you needed wrecking. Yeah, I murmured. I really did. And this time when I kissed her, it wasn't about fire or pride or proving anything. It was just about warmth, the kind that doesn't burn but stays, because she was the only sweet thing I couldn't resist. If you like the story, please like, share, and subscribe the channel for more stories like this.